Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. Hi, everyone. I hope you guys are having just a fantabulous day that ends in Y. And we're being broadcast live, of course, on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live, and also on YouTube. So hi, YouTube. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, like, you know the drill. No matter how you are listening, make sure you stop in and say hi in one of the chat rooms. Or if you're driving and texting is not suggested, which I get, send me the email at wildepaisley@gmail.com, and that's wildepaisley@gmail.com. If you want to learn more about me and my show and what I do and the storefront and all that stuff, you can go to my website. That's www.paisleywild.com. Just so you know, there are... I am offering tarot readings now and also dream interpretation through the website. So if you want to do that, just fill out the form and we'll get you scheduled, because those aren't something I just want to give a token amount of time to. Sure, I can rough one out in about 15 minutes, but often the question that you have requires a little more answer or perhaps a little more interpretation. So, anyways, that's on the website, paisleywild.com. If you want to just support my radio habit, I'm okay with that too. And that you can use the cash tag, and that is $TheSpacesBetween. And as long as you're going online and searching stuff out and doing the stuff, doing the things, check out iLife.com. iLife is the official sponsor for Truth Frequency Radio. iLife combines the unleaded or non-psychoactive properties of the ayahuasca with the high-quality CBD to help support all of you. All of you. And let's see. Phone lines are open tonight. Let me make sure. Yes, I did it right. Sometimes technology is my friend. Sometimes there just needs to be more coffee. Anyways, so the phone line being open tonight is 213-233-3998. Or if you're across the pond in the UK, it is 44203-393-2871. So hi, everybody. Y'all are just blowing up the chat rooms. I love it. If you have questions as we go tonight, I will do my darndest to answer you. And if you do call in and I don't say hello right away, let me know. But anyways, hi. Thanks for joining. Yeah, Leo, you need to turn off the regular news. Leo says he needs an uplifting show. Turn off the regular news. Just stop. You're almost better off watching Ancient Aliens these days. You're more likely to get something uplifting and not depressing, like watching the news. Which, yeah, there's crazy news. Marie, getting sleepy. I understand. That's why I'm having the coffee. It's an iced coffee with raspberries. I mean, why not? I'm at home. I'll go to sleep eventually. Eventually. Right? So, title of the show tonight. What did I title it? Oh, Missing the Bonfires. Yeah, I am missing the bonfires, actually. Because normally throughout the summer, we have... I get it, Leo. I really, really actually get it, which is why I got into the front yard. So on that note, real quick, before I get into the show, we're on the topic of fire. So here locally, in North Idaho, if you guys have been watching the news at all, you know that North Idaho, being part of the West, has been dealing with some fires. There are some pretty big ones regionally. There's a pretty big one. It's a state line fire, if I remember right, and that's the Montana-Idaho state line. There's the there's a couple down in Oregon. Actually, the Salmon River or Clearwater River, No Return Wilderness area. There's a big fire there. Snake River also. A lot of the West Coast or the western part of the United States is currently dealing with some water issues. As in, we don't have enough. And we've been hearing about California being in a drought situation for pretty much ever. Well, it's because California has mostly been a desert for, mostly ever. And, as more people are moving into the West, there's more people using water, and as as people are using more water, there's less of it available. So farming's compromised, the ground is compromised, and it's kind of a big deal. But also, weather patterns are shifting because that's what happens. Climate change happens, and I know we've talked about this off and on, over the years, because we've been doing this for 2.5, rapidly racing towards 3 years. If climate change didn't happen, we'd still have glaciers sitting in my backyard, basically. The ice ages wouldn't have ended. Dinosaurs wouldn't have, developed. We have to have some meteorological changes, because that's what is part of what, the Earth does. It goes through these cycles. They shut down one of the dams today because the reservoirs are so low. There's another issue dealing with little or no electricity. So when I say, be prepared, I'm not saying be a prepper because, the world's going to end. Be a prepper because you don't know what's going to happen, for crying out loud. Have your bug out bag, your backup water supplies, that kind of thing. So here locally, we have what's called the Trestle Creek Complex Fire, and it's been going for a while. I think it was the weekend after 4th of July is when it started. Crazy contrails that day, and then really weird electrical storm that night. And so, in theory, the fires were started by lightning strikes. And so the there was like 6 or 7 initial fires that started, and over time they had most of them contained, and so they were like, woohoo, we've got most of these contained, except for one of them is number 6, I think, was a little bit more rugged area, and it wasn't contained, and it's since grown and totally wrapped itself around the other fires. So even though it had been contained, well, it's not now. So anyways, the Trestle Creek fire, I can see the smoke plumes from my front yard. And hold on, I have a visitor. And this is Merlin. Merlin, say hi. So the smoke plumes are showing, and at night sometimes you can see the red from the fires burning. It kind of depends on the angle of the light, and also, nope, stay on my coffee. And also, how much smoke there is, because if there's too much smoke, you can't really see through things. There's fires nearby. So, because it is so blasted dry here, we're currently experiencing a burn ban, and normally I would still have a little bit of a bonfire at least, because, why not? And that'd be great, except for with the lack of rainfall, our ponds and our water levels are getting low, and I'm concerned a little bit about the well levels, and so we're starting to kind of pay attention and reduce our water usage even more. And it was one of those things that we just aren't doing the fires right now. And so since we're not doing bonfires, and pretty much everybody in the county is like, no, don't do bonfires. They banned fireworks, and for once, first time I've ever agreed with that 100%. And so, no bonfires. We had 2020 was the year of COVID, and just couldn't, have people over and have a bonfire and hang out. And now in 2021, we've got the year of fire, and it's still hard to have people come over and hang out because the smoke level is enough that you don't really want to be outside. We could really, really use some rain. And it was, until then, we're not going to have the bonfires. So I got to thinking, I miss them. So I want to talk about them tonight. And so, yeah. So it's not necessarily uplifting layout, but I get it. You can send some of your monsoon up this way. Goodness, we could use it. So tonight we're going to talk about fire. So, bonfire, mankind's been playing with fire literally for millennia, basically. Ever since we figured out how to carry fire or create fire or use fire in any way, shape, or form, it's been part of our life. And we have gathered around fires for fellowship. We've gathered around fires for warmth. We've gathered around fires for storytelling or cultural exchanges, for protection. And fire has not always been just, for, cooking food, but it's also been there for many, many other parts of our society. Lucky? That is freaking hilarious. All right, I'm going to say this one out loud. So, before I get into it, I'm going to take a moment. Lucky story. She says she had some friends back in the 90s who would have mead parties in Nordic-themed attire for festivals and night festivals. Morning after a bonfire, then found themselves sprawled in reduced form, really sparsely clad, and they heard someone knocking on the door. It was soft but insistent, so her friend opened the door, and there was a lady with a little girl at her side, and then she says, "What in Odin's name do you want?" And the lady starts by saying, "We're here from such and such church to tell you about Jesus Christ." And from the back of the house, you hear a man holler, "Light it back up, Christian barbecue." Oh my. This is so inappropriate. Kind of funny, but very, very inappropriate. Yeah, we just don't have mead parties like that locally. Although I got to tell you, the church of whatever, they don't really knock on my door very much anymore. I invited too many of them to a bonfire, apparently. So, anyways, sorry. I have to hide the keyboard because I don't know which cat's going to jump up here. So yeah, fire. It's been an integral part of our society, pretty much since we gathered together. And in a way, it's become a cornerstone of our society. It's made it easier for us to, store food because we could smoke food for storage and long-term purposes, so we could handle seasons without food or seasons where food is scarce. We were able to use food then to prepare and cook, so reduce disease or, potentially poisons, that kind of thing. Grains, sure, you could chew on raw oats, but they don't really taste very good. It's hard to eat. So being able to cook grains became easier for us to digest. And so our diet changed from just, being the typical hunter-gatherer with berries and, whatever we could, scrape together. And our food started changing. So as our food started changing, our culture changed. And a lot of that was directly related to fire and being able to harness the power of it. Not necessarily understand it, because I have to tell you, here it is 2021. I don't know that we really truly understand fire yet. We think we do. People study it all the time. And the way it moves, the way it acts, the way it behaves, but yet, hey, Mr. Don's in the chat room. Apparently he's counting cars. So, fire it's just a big deal. So, we started off with campfires or, community fires where we cooked and did the things, to being able to put fires in boxes, like, wood stoves, that kind of thing, to heat a location, which meant that instead of, having to move with the seasons, So we'd stay in a kind of a temperate climate. We were able to suddenly survive in colder climates because we were able to keep our homes warmer. And from there, it's changed. Now, another thing that fire has been used for is for the remains. So if someone passes, have them, cremated, a funeral pyre, that kind of thing. And so the history of bonfire actually has something to do with that, because even though we generally associate bonfires today with, toasted marshmallows and s'mores and that kind of thing, that's not where it originated. So bonfire stems from the Middle English term bonfire, which meant the burning of bones, or a fire made of bones. So originally, people thought, or linguists, I suppose I should say, not originally, people thought that bon meant good, because in French, bon is good. That's what it translates to. And so quite a few people felt that bonfire meant good fire, because if you've ever been around a bonfire, it's a good time. It's fun. There's a lot of elements to being around a bonfire that are very, very relaxing and soothing and awesome. But in, let's see, in 1755, the Dictionary of the English Language, gentleman by the name of Samuel Johnson, he's British, defined bonfire as a fire made for some public cause of triumph or exaltation. And he decided that the word bon, or the French word bon, and the English word for fire went together, and that was where bonfire came from. And so often today we see a lot of bonfires in celebration. So your local sports team or your local school, they have a celebration. Homecoming night, there's a bonfire, that kind of thing. Weddings that are in the evenings, especially like beach weddings, that kind of thing. Sometimes there's a bonfire. As a pagan, often there's a fire. And bonfires became a thing. But the true origin of bonfire is a little different. It's, like I mentioned, from Middle English, bonfire, so fire of bones, which actually sounds kind of cool. The earliest appearance of the word ignis osium, or Latin, is fire of bones. And in the early 15th century, it was defined, I think this is Old English, so it says, in worship of Saint Johann, the people woke at home and made each manner of fires. On was clean bones and no woad, and that is called a bonfire. A nothir is clean woad and no bones, and that is called a woad fire, for people to sit and to wake thereby. John Mark, Liber Festivalis, 1486. Okay, so that's Old English. There's a lot of extra vowels and letters in there. Interesting, Leo. Leo says, in Fortnite, the game, you can heal yourself at a bonfire. Very interesting. So, with the etymology, then, of bonfire, it was, kind of an odd hybridization between bonfire and bonfire. And in the 15th century, it was thought to maybe be boonfire, as in boon companion or good companion. Or it could have been bane fire, and bane is another spelling of bone, common in Scotland. So even with the words that we use today that are common, it's amazing to me just how different the interpretations of the words have been over the years, and how they've changed and altered. Because bane today, it's like, ooh, that's bad. Bane of my existence. You're the thorn in my side. You are the rock in my shoe. It's not necessarily a good thing. But bane is in Scotland. It wasn't just another word for bone. Um, so bonfires were held in worship of the saints through the medieval times. And so a lot of people began to adopt that interpretation that an open air fire that people gathered around was something to be celebrated. And it's really, really common. Justin's got a bonfire going as he speaks. Good deal. Anyways, in modern times, the bonfire is still used to celebrate or commemorate events. Guy Fawkes Day in Great Britain is also known as Bonfire Night or Bonfire Day, and that's to light fires to celebrate that King James I and the House of Lords didn't get blown up by a group of conspirators. So, those of you who know anything about Guy Fawkes, kind of a big deal. Yes. And then as fall happens, pretty much around the world, bonfires start to happen. We're cleaning up the yard debris, we're burning it, and sometimes we're just celebrating around the bonfire. Sometimes it's to toast the marshmallows and all the things, right? Yes, s'mores time, which, if you want to see something funny, you should give Mr. Don s'mores. Reminds me of a 7-year-old. So in our life today, most bonfires are celebratory. They're not considered anything else, just straight up celebratory. And so, yeah, there's often libations involved. There's
beer.
Yes, beer.
Alcohol.
Yeah, Mr. Don says alcohol.
Damn trains.
Not necessarily the train on the bonfire, but yeah.
They create fires.
Yeah, they can create fires. Hot dogs. What are you...
Why does it smell like clothes down here?
I don't know. I have a sage incense going behind my... Leo's making brownies. We made marshmallow treats.
Crispy treats with Nutella.
No, those are not Nutella. Those are chocolate chips sprinkled on the top.
Oh. All right.
All right, yeah. Rice Krispie treats. Lucky says bonfire does not mean the clap. No, that's something else entirely. Leo says ice cream. No, Don is not eating ice cream tonight. It is ham. So.
And refueling.
Refueling, yeah, from the trials and tribulations of being on the portal. How was the portal tonight?
It was quick.
Was it?
Yep.
Good. Busy?
It's quick.
Okay. So, today, we look at bonfires as celebrations. We gather around. We talk. We have social time. Leo says, he's just happy either way. We sing. There's merrymaking. It's a time of celebration. Not so much the time of burning here locally or in the U.S., but in third world countries, it's a little bit different still. Or in cultures that really do have to rely upon fire to take care of things, to heat, to do the stuff. I have another article I wanted to talk about, but it's a minute to break, so I don't want to just start and then get interrupted. So, website, order the book. Leo, I believe your book is coming.
You believe?
I believe.
I know.
I haven't tracked it, but I did. It's in there. Elaine says they drink lots of beer.
Beer.
Mead. Mead is better than beer. I can't drink beer. There's wheat in beer. It's just sad. Justin says if we have a sneaky hippie in our yard if we're smelling cloves. Dirty hippie, not necessarily a sneaky hippie. Anyways, we'll be right back after the break. Wildlies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. And tonight, we're talking about glorious fire. Not the element, the actual, having a fire. Because I miss having bonfires, campfires. Gotta tell you, I like to go camping. I haven't been camping in years because I'm not as young as I used to be, and the ground is not as soft. Yeah, and Mini Me just wasn't quite old enough. I'm sure it would have been fine, but I don't know. She wants to go now, but I'm a little reluctant with all the fires going on to, run around and go sleep in a tent because then I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the next time the Paranormal Portal folks go to Bigfoot stuff, we'll take a tent and go camping. I didn't say you're invited to the tent. I just said maybe we'll take a tent and go camping. It'd be fun. Ish. We'll see. Campfires haven't really happened much. And then, it's just been a really sorry lack of campfires outside or bonfires. I suppose could do the camping. Elaine says camping is a hotel without room service. Let's see, the last time we went camping, we went huckleberry picking, and it was fun. It was a good time. It wasn't too horribly hot. It wasn't too terribly cold. It wasn't smoky. It was awesome, and it was a good time. I thought it was fun. But I don't know. My sister was there, and that was kind of annoying. Actually, no, it wasn't annoying. She came very, very prepared. I suppose I've been camping in the Mount Hood area. That was fun. It was fun, actually. I was the only one who was prepared because I know how to cook over an open fire. Yeah. So if you're going to go camping, make sure you're ready. What? Cook over an open fire? Why?
Remember, she had to take over the fire from me, and oh, this is how you do it.
Yeah, that was that time. Mount Hood, it was all me. Nobody else brought tools. It's like, what do you mean? You went camping without a cast iron skillet? What are you, a savage? How are you going to cook that steak? You don't even have a stick. So, yeah, it was fun. Actually, it was fun. I had a good time. But then I had a huge tent, and it was awesome. Camping, I think, is something everybody should do. Get a little bit accustomed to being outside, doing things different. So, Leo apparently is thinking of his grandmother. That's awesome. Every so often I stop and think about things my grandma might have said or may have done. Sometimes when Mini-Me, or actually any child, swears slightly, I think back to the first time I heard my grandmother swear. It was because I dropped a Jell-O salad on the stairs and it went everywhere. It was for a potluck, and she was, even though I was trying to help, it was very traumatic, and it's just one of those childhood memories that will never go away. It's like, Grandma, do you know what that word means? Yeah, she probably did. But, yeah. Here it is, August, and we are rapidly approaching October and Samhain, thinning of the veil. I am not surprised that a lot of our ancestors are starting to become more present in our minds. Now, Justin, I was at a KOA campground on the river. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for Sasquatch. It was very, very urban. Very urban. I probably saw more homeless people. Although maybe are homeless people just Bigfoot in disguise? An urban camo. As Don rolls his eyes at me. So, um, nowadays, here in the U.S., generally speaking, I'm not saying universally, but generally speaking, we don't rely on fire to heat the home or to cook on. Now, there are pockets of different cultures, such as the Mennonites or the Amish, who are very reliant upon fire, specifically wood-burning fire, to cook and to heat. And then there's other parts of the country, like here in the Pacific Northwest, where we do rely on wood heat a fair bit. But there are other parts of the world where it is extraordinarily important to have wood heat or fire in some way. Think Alaska, the Arctic Circle. There's whole stretches of Canada, Siberia, Northern Europe, some parts of South America. It's just all over the world. We'll just leave it at that. Or else you guys will realize just how bad my geography really is. Hey, Justin, that's the closest I've been to camping. He says a KOA is not a camp. I had a tent. That was away from everybody else, too. It's great. So, part of, the camping experience is the learning how to build a fire. Once upon a time, it was a big deal to be part of the Boy Scouts community or the Girl Scouts community, and you'd learn how to do those things. What's Don laughing about? Do I need to know? Do I want to know? What's Don laughing about? Yeah, you should be on.
By replacing your morning coffee with green tea, you can lose up to 87% of what little joy you had left in your life.
That's
Thank
funny.
you, Lucky.
Well, I like green tea, but not enough to replace my coffee. Growing up, I grew up off the grid, so fire was a very, very important part of my life, and I started building fires. I'm trying to think. Probably about 8 years old. Yeah, I learned how to cook on a wood stove. So I know how to, clean out the ash box, split the firewood, all of that. That was something I had to learn quite young. That's something, kids, generally speaking, don't have to do today. I'm not saying they don't all do it. I'm saying that most of them don't. If they want to make breakfast, they just go into the kitchen, they grab a box of cereal and pour out a bowl of cereal, add some milk, and away they go. Or, throw something in the microwave or, waffle in the toaster oven. And, pretty straightforward for them. It makes sense. But when I was that age, 40 years ago, the normal was using fire. 40 years previous to that, everybody had fire or gas, and ice boxes are still a thing. So it's amazing how our society has evolved over time and gotten away from using open flame. And instead, we're using, electricity a lot more, which, unless you're someplace where you can use water to generate power, you're still burning things to get electricity. Just saying. So, yeah, it's, fire's a big deal. Fire is still supporting us. And sometimes doesn't support us. Like, we had the power crew came through, 3 weeks ago? Woke us up about 6:30 in the morning cutting down trees because they were concerned about fire. So, yeah, today you do have to be careful about where you make your fire. You got to have a fire pit. You got to have a shovel to put it out. You're going to bury it, whatever, water. You can make sure there's nothing around it. And you put in a few protections. It's not just, scrape away the grass and, make a fire. It takes a process. And with that, in building a fire, there's a certain magic to it, I guess, in building a fire. Yes, I do have the lazy way. I've got fat sticks upstairs that I can use to build a fire, which makes things slick.
Who has fat sticks?
We do.
Who?
We?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, apparently Don has fat sticks that I stole 2 of.
More than 2 of. Yeah.
2.
Yeah, those are for my barbecue. Thank you.
They make fantastic fire
They
starters.
make fantastic barbecue.
Fire starters. You're barbecuing with fire. Justin says, now our kids have the convenience of pumping themselves full of radiation and GMOs. Yay! Actually, I make waffles and I'll make pancakes from scratch and throw them in the freezer. So, and then they get thrown in the toaster oven. So, yeah. Cheating, yes. Yes, Leo, that is cheating using the fat sticks. I think they're freaking awesome. We used to do it with a 5-gallon bucket. We'd make kindling and shove it full stuff the 5-gallon bucket full of kindling wood and then pour kerosene over it or use motor oil. Because back then it was okay. Well, it wasn't really okay, but it was accepted. I think it's the better way to put it. The world's changed a lot in 40 years, kids. So, anyways, fire is just really, really important. Now, I was reading an article as I was preparing for the show tonight, and I'll include this. It was an article from OutsideOnline.com, and the author is really big into fire because he lived up in the Arctic for a period of time, and fire was important. And he's slept by fires to avoid predators, campfire to save a life because it keeps you warm. Yes. Telling ghost stories around the campfire as, the pine pitch is popping and snapping and crackling. The smell of smoke. Yeah, that's awesome. And he mentions in the article that once upon a time he bumped into someone and they were talking about fire in general, and they said that the reason why mankind is so drawn to TVs and screens is because we're looking for fire. We've been programmed to look for the flickering flames. And so the images from a TV or a monitor or whatever are often flickering in the background, and so we're still transfixed by it, and we still have to look at it. And so that's why when the TV is on, often people get transfixed by the TV. I don't know if that's true or not, but I thought it was an interesting concept, so I figured I'd mention it. Because, I've noticed, I've seen it, people sit at the bar and they're all staring at the table or the TV. Sure, they're watching the football game, or they're watching the flickering lights. Or if you have a fake fire going on, that's almost as mesmerizing as watching a real fire. It's that flickering light. And yeah, in a way, fire I think is very analogous to life, because you have to start off small, you have to take care of it, you have to build it up. And you have to keep it fed and aired out and in order for it to grow and take care of it. Justin has a funny chicken story. He has one, they named it Amelia because she plays airplane and runs around the yard with her wings out. Yep, squirrel moment. Today, when I got home from my physical therapy, there was a raven standing with my chickens. They're just all hanging out. It wasn't a murder. It wasn't a coven. It was just, they were all just hanging out.
Attempted murder.
It was just like, wow, hi. And then I went out there and it's like, what's that? Why is that there? And I know it's not a raven feather, but this was in the fence right next to where he was standing. We've got black chickens, so yeah. It's like, okay. It's a really nice feather. So yes. I just thought it was really interesting Then he went and flew away and made the croaking noises that ravens make. So I just, it was pretty cool. It's like, oh, my stars. He was gone by the time we got out there. Because I'm not moving very fast these days. And Minnie Me's been using $10 words. So what did she say? She said it was stupendous and magical that there was a raven in the backyard with the chickens. Yes, $10 words. Because that is what she does. Let's see. Hold on. There we go. So with fires nowadays, you know, we sit around the campfire, we hang out, we talk, and honestly, it's, if you have the chance, it's one of the best ways to get quality time with your friends or your family. Because generally there's not very many distractions, especially if you're anywhere off the grid. That means cell phones are put away. There's no TV, there's often not a lot of noise. It's just the people, the snap, crackle, pop of the fire, maybe the wind in the trees, and just that glow. And I've noticed this over the years that, some conversations are just easier in the dark around a fire. Not all of them, of course, but often those that are really deep within. Sometimes it's that shadow work that you have to do. The glow of the fire soothes, the emotions and the anxiety and the stress, and it just gives you that opportunity to have those deeper conversations and those deeper moments. So the conversations are deeper. Maybe the stories are funnier. Now, the stories are funnier, that may be the libations talking. I'm not sure. But it's just a really pleasant way to just relax and unwind. And it's something we forget, to be present in the moment. We forget that, no, it's time to just stop doing the things. I know that a friend of mine gets a little twitchy and OCD. People are coming over. She has to be cleaning the entire time that people are around. It's like, no, just sit down, shut up, stop moving, and, communicate and just be, stop. And it is just, I know several people like that. They have to constantly be doing something if there's company. And it's like, you know what? Just relax. Hey, Dee, I'm sorry about the flooding. I hope it dries out cleanly and directly. Maybe a campfire. But yeah, sitting around a campfire with your friends, your family, it's just a way, it seems that it is a way to just develop deeper connections to the people the people you hang with, your circle of friends. And maybe, especially, I know that I was looking forward to more campfires this year and bonfires, that kind of thing, because, I wanted that connection with people again, because, most of 2020, I didn't have it. It was me and Minnie and Dawn sometimes, and the dog and the cats. I can talk to the cats and I can talk to the dog. The dog looks at me like, where's my bacon? And the cat looks at me like, shh, go back to sleep. Mini-me can have a conversation, but it's not quite the same as a bunch of peers hanging out and just talking and having a good time. Now, often, if we're able to have a bonfire or campfire and we're cooking over an open flame, the food just tastes better. That's just all there is to it. Especially if you have the opportunity to go fishing or something and it's fresh caught fish that you're barbecuing. You know, you don't have to have like a fancy, extravagant meal. It's often something small. Yeah, Dee says she hasn't had any typical summer fun. Yeah. I've been to the lake, I think. Hold on. I have not been to the lake. Been to the river a couple times, but no, not been to the lake. I'll be going on Sunday, and I'll talk about that later after the break. You know, bonfire, you know, throw your potatoes in the ashes to let them roast, your ears of corn to let them roast. Love that. I think that's a fantastic way to eat corn. Hot dogs, I'm okay either way, but steaks over the open flame, nothing quite like it. So yeah, food just tastes better. Leo, you can't eat fish? Wow, I'm sorry, man. I don't eat a lot of fish, but a fresh trout or perch is awesome. Oh, sad. But you can make, and then there's s'mores. Okay, s'mores are fantastic. I can make s'mores in the toaster oven. I've made s'mores using the top of the stove when I'm desperate, because sometimes you just need a s'more, for crying out loud. And you do. Sometimes you just definitely do. But you know, there's other things that you can make over the campfire. As long as you've got a little bit of aluminum foil and some patience, yeah, there's so many different things that you can make over open flame. And that's if you don't know how to use a Dutch oven or don't have access to tools to make an oven. I mean, wood-burning ovens for pizza, yum. Those are fabulous too. So, you know, and food, what goes best with good company? Good food. And sure, you can plan it all out and do all the things, or you can just, you know, picnic it out or whatever it is. Wow, Leo, I'm sorry. You know, I don't know, there's something to be said about really good food and good people, you know, and just relaxing and having a good time around the campfire. And for those of us that have spent a little bit of time around a campfire, you know, as it gets darker and the stars are coming out, sometimes, you know, you get the northern lights or southern lights, however you want to, depending on where you're at. But you've got the snap, crackle, pop. Maybe you're bundled up in a blanket. Maybe you just smell like, you know, insect repellent. But you know, as the night wears on, and you know, maybe you run out of stuff to talk about for a little bit, or everybody takes a pause, they're getting tired, and it's just that quietness, that peacefulness as people are watching the fire. Honestly, it's a fantastic way to meditate. Not just be quiet and be at peace, but also to meditate. Meditation with a fire, and I'll talk about that after the break too. Or in the second hour, because I think it's a kind of a big deal. I think it's a good thing to talk about that. Yep. And then, you know, there's a big difference between meditation and mediation. Spelling matters. But yeah, it's often very hypnotic to sit and stare at the flames and relax and just breathe. You know, breathe the clean air, hopefully, you know, and enjoy the feeling of being around the campfire. And nostalgia. Well, you know, I don't know about you guys, but growing up, we had a lot of campfires. It was a good time. Not always a great time, but it was a good time. And often when we had campfires, it's, you know, those things stick out. I remember one time, I was probably about 6th grade, I think, 7th grade. We had a donkey. He was an idiot. His name was Jake. he would eat flaming s'mores, or he would steal the hot dogs off your stick, if you weren't paying attention. He ran off with a bag of hot dog buns on more than one occasion. But those are, we laughed, we had a good time. It was funny, looking back. And so, yeah, that feeling of nostalgia often comes back to us when we're sitting around a campfire. Maybe we think about, those nights where, we were sitting around the wood stove, or, hanging out with our friends at the bonfire get-togethers that we went to when we were younger, drinking, that kind of thing, the solo cups. Or maybe it's when your kids made s'mores. There's all sorts of different memories that come back when we sit around the bonfire. And that feeling of nostalgia and memory, yeah, it's a big deal. And we need to keep that. And sometimes we need that trigger, the fire, to bring it back to us. So, top of the hour, when we come back, we'll do some singing bowl. We'll talk about some fires some more. And, yeah, got stuff to talk about. We'll see you in a few. Yeah, still nobody can hear me. There I am. Can you hear me now? I hope you can hear me now. I had to push all the buttons. I just got so excited about doing the singing bowl and all the stuff, and yeah. So, apparently the voices in my head were too loud and I couldn't hear any sound. So I hope y'all can hear me now. Yes, yes, no, yes, maybe. Waiting for the yes. We're gonna do some singing bowl till I hear the yes. Yes, yes. Please say yes. Okay. Singing bowl because apparently that's all I can do today. I could play that bowl for an hour and do nothing else. After a while, your guys' ears would be like, can you stop now? Let's do something else. Can we try something new? And I'd be like, no, we're going to do the bowl all night long. That's it, period. So, I was wondering, because it has been suggested that I desperately need to do a TikTok channel. If I did like short meditation type things, like a 1-minute meditation on YouTube, on TikTok, is it something people would be interested in? So I'm just asking your opinion because I don't know. That's why I ask. If you think so, send me a message. You can do that in the chat rooms, or you can send me the email at wildepaisley@gmail.com. Or there is a comment section on the website. That's paisleywild.com. And if you just want to call in tonight, you can absolutely do that. That number is 213-233-3998. Or if you're in the UK, it is 44203-393-2871. So yeah. Anyways. Yeah, just wondering what your 2 cents were. Because yeah. And yeah. So talk about fire. You know, with the wildfires and the weather patterns changing as, you know, as they have been, and things just being a little different, believe it, different. You know, there's a movement right now where people are kind of wanting to maybe interfere a bit in the weather, and I'm okay with that to an extent, as long as you're being responsible when you're playing with the weather. Leo, no, that does not mean you are old. So Leo says, I don't even have a TikTok. Does that mean I'm old? Nope. It just means you are not embracing that particular social media platform, which I get. Totally get. And I held out for a while. I just joined, I think, in April. I posted a video of the birds singing in the trees. That's the only video I've done. Because I just don't have the patience to do more than one platform at a time. So if I do TikTok stuff, I'll also put it on the website just because not everybody TikToks, which I get. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not 20 anymore. I see my daughter-in-law on TikTok periodically, and it makes me giggle because, sure, she just does her own thing, and it's good. And at the same time, I'm like, seriously? Why are you doing that? Okay. That's why you're doing that. So, anyways, just was wondering. Oh, I should have tried to do this. What? Oops, wrong button. All right. So, talking about fires and such. So, with the changing weather patterns and it being drier on the west than it has been, that kind of thing. Not planning on messing with Mother Nature. It's more asking those, the entities, the Mother Nature, the weather systems to let it rain here just a little bit. Just to put out the fires, let it control a little bit, clean up the air quality. And now this is, so I'll be doing a thing as part of a group ritual on Sunday to help channel that energy. So on Sunday, if you could just not think rain necessarily, because maybe rain isn't what we need. Instead, think beneficial weather. That's the big thing. Adjust things to our benefit rather than our detriment. So, if you could do that Sunday morning, that'd be great. Leo wants to know, whatever happened to good old chatting face to face? Well, Leo, I don't know about where you're at, but gas is $3.50 a gallon here. No, it went up. It's $3.65 now. $3.65 a gallon. And as much as I would love to drive down there to say howdy, Leo, my budget doesn't support the gas bill. So I'm doing this instead. So, yeah. It would, and it is interesting how with the advent of technology, there's fewer face-to-face interactions amongst people. And I saw this meme, and it was comparing the 90s, mid-90s roughly. This is AOL, AOL, you've got mail. Remember that? The big commercials about, like, I may be dating myself, but that's okay. Anyways, and so you'd be looking at your screen, it's like, ooh, I wish somebody would send me an email. And then there was, instead there's, letters and cards and stuff in the mailbox, and you're looking like, woohoo, where's my email? And nowadays, our emails are so full of stuff that we don't necessarily need, which I have to go through and unsubscribe from things constantly. Instead, now you go to the mailbox and you're like, well, I don't have any mail. It's just the bills. Well, trat. It's really changed. It's in just a few short years. It makes you wonder, what's going to change in the years to come? Is it going to, go back to, people valuing the face-to-face interactions more than the online ones or on the phone? I know that if I make a phone call, I hate voicemail jail. Let's see. Oh, yeah, with the dial-up, you'd turn it on, you'd walk away, you'd do the dishes, maybe fold a little laundry, come back, and maybe it would be on. Maybe. Nowadays, we get grouchy if we can't have stuff instantly. Yeah. I'm trying to explain to Mini-Me that when I was her age, I didn't have a tablet, or we didn't have Netflix, and we had like 4 channels. We had ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS. And you had to go up to the TV and turn the dial. And there was like a UHF channel. I thought her head was going to explode. It was hilarious. So, it was funny. So, Yes. Leo says, to be fair, I don't think most people would have handled the lockdown the same without the technology we have today. So there's that, I guess. Yep. And then there was pagers. Now they're used to save your seat or your place in line at the restaurant. Everybody has pagers. So many of them that the restaurant just hands them out. Hey, when this goes off, come back. So with fire, and everything, the way things have changed, it's more of a social thing rather than a pivotal part of society. Just think about it. Once upon a time, when we lived in a cave or a long house or what have you, a bonfire or fire was a place to gather around, because everybody was facing the center. There were some people facing out to pay attention for protection, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, everybody was facing everybody else. And it made it really easy for someone to stand up and tell stories because the focus was on them, or to give speeches, or to interact, show leadership, that kind of thing. And because light was on everybody's face, it made facial expressions really easy to read. And because everybody's looking, at one another across the fire. And so that sense of gathering, that sense of camaraderie that we may not have nowadays because we are miles apart. The family unit used to be a lot closer to each other. I know, so let's see. In my own personal family history, on my dad's side of the family, if you go back a couple generations, there's 3 brothers and a sister. One brother stayed in Germany. 2 brothers decided to go to the New World, and they brought their sister because she wanted to come to the New World too. And they got to New York, Staten Island, and both brothers wanted to come to the U.S., and both brothers wanted to go to South America. But they weren't sure who was going to stay with their sister because back then, women needed to have a chaperone. And so they flipped a coin. One brother went to South America, and one brother came to the U.S. With the sister. And they eventually made it to Iowa, where they settled in Germantown, Iowa. And from there, they spread out just a little bit. But generally speaking, it was a big deal to leave your family and go elsewhere because the family unit was just a lot closer knit. Nowadays, with the cars, combustion engines, that kind of thing, we can go anywhere as long as we can afford it. So that social interaction with our family just isn't the same today as it was, even 40 years ago, let alone 400 years ago or 100 years ago. I mean, stop and think about how much has changed in the last century alone. Once upon a time, fire really, really marked the boundaries between night and that safe space feeling. People used to sleep with their back to the fire, facing out, so the fire would warm up their back, and they would be facing out so they could see the dangers of the night. Because once upon a time, mankind wasn't necessarily the top of the food chain. Big cats, European wolves. Okay, yes, I know the wolf stories really seem outlandish to those of us here in the U.S., but the European wolves are not the same as the timber wolves of the U.S. 2 totally different creatures, and the wolves of Europe, those are some scary critters. They were big. And just like big lions and cats and bears, and it's once upon a time we were prey as much as as a deer or an elk, and so having that fire to protect us was essential. And we needed that fire for that safekeeping or safe feeling. Fire used to be a means of communication also. Light the signal fires. We've seen the phrase in books, we've seen it in movies, TV shows, that kind of thing. That used to be a real thing. There'd be cairns with burnable or combustible materials on the hilltops around the world associated with different countries. And if something was to happen, you would light the fire to, like, hey, the bad guys are coming. What are we going to do? Everybody panic, or, go to here or go to there. And as necessary. It was a different way of communication. It was a way to get that warning message across the countryside without having to rely upon someone running or a horse running, trying to get that message across. Sometimes it wasn't safe. I know I don't want to run flat out across the countryside in the dark. That is how you break your ankle. I've done that once. I don't want to do it again. Thanks. I'll pass. Period. But yeah, fire used to be a way of communicating. Nowadays we pick up the phone or the internet or what have you, and that's what we do. And then, yes, the light patterns within the fire, that is definitely something that has helped with meditation and the Zen and finding that inner spark of you to go on your spiritual journey. Because it used to be you would take the substance, of which there are a variety, and you'd become more in tune with the fire, and the fire would transport you or help transport you into a different space or time or realm, if you will, to get the message from the gods or your spirit guides or your patron animal, that kind of thing. Also, light patterns from fire, they're always changing. They very rarely duplicate. I mean, they can, but it's a chaotic kind of a thing. So it adds visual interest as you're talking and communicating with those around you. Wind and smoke direction, that is a big deal, because it used to be, you wanted to make sure, if you could smell the smoke and you followed it, that's where the camp was. And if you were there to rob people, well, they're probably asleep. Or if you didn't want somebody to rob you, you wouldn't have a fire, that kind of a thing. And so that smoke direction used to be really important. Nowadays, if you're not hunting, it doesn't matter quite as much, unless, like here in the West Coast, you're worried about, wildfires. Then you're paying attention to the direction of smoke. But yeah, once upon a time, fire helped create that dramatic energy, especially when it came to telling stories. So think about it. Some of the old tales, I can't think of any off the top of my head, are talking about the Oak King and Holly King and how they fight it out. What if someone threw a little bit of zinc or something onto the fire as they're telling, to cause it to spark and blow up? Wouldn't that be wild? Wouldn't that be cool, just to enhance the story? It was an enhancer like that. It wasn't just for light or heat. It was also used as story time. And so as we, our society changed and we adapted and created structures and stuff to sleep in, then the fire changed, and it was once, in a pit, and it went out the roof, and then it became enclosed in like a fireplace or a stove and went up the chimney. All of that, evolved over time. And even now, think about it. How often does everybody show up in your kitchen while you're trying to cook? It's the place of gathering and community. That's why so many breakfast nooks or dining tables or bar seating is right next to the kitchen, is because everybody's drawn to the place where the food's being made. And often food needs some sort of heat. Nowadays it's generally an electric fire or maybe a gas fire, to cook the food. But still, people are drawn to it. Socially, we have adapted to, move towards the fire or where the food's being cooked, because that's where we socialize. That's where we get the gossip. I mean, it used to be where we went to get the gossip or get the news, instead of, the water cooler at the office. So, things have changed over the years. And then um, there's definitely, even today, I think, an enchantment with sitting around a fire and having those flames and the snap, crackle, pop. Whether you're there by yourself or you're there with a crowd, it just, I don't know, for me, it's very, very soothing. Justin, I'm jealous. Jealous is throughout the show tonight. I have built a very nice fire in our pit, and I'm enjoying it thoroughly. I wish. My goal this summer, I had plans to do a couple shows fireside because I thought that'd be great. Right? You know, do a couple shows by the campfire, moonlight. I mean, can't get a whole lot more pagan, right? Yeah, it's not happening because of the smoke. Trying not to be bitter, I promise. Because, you know, even though right now there's a lot of fire, there's some good benefits. Really quick before we go to break. One of the benefits, all those trees burning, well, some of them, they have to have the heat for the cones, the pine cones, to release the seeds so that new life can start, new trees can sprout. This time next year, or next season, next summer, there will be quite the morel harvest in those areas, which is really kind of awesome. And then also with the trees burning off and some of the undergrowth burning off. Next year, when it grows back, there'll be a lot of browsing, like brush, more huckleberries probably. Oh, thank you. The berry population will be much, much, much bigger there, in theory. And because there will be more foliage and brush and shrubs and such, the wildlife will have more to eat. So the deer, the elk, the moose, the bears for the berries. And then, of course, that brings in the big cats because they like to eat deer and elk and etc. So, it's a circle of life. And when something burns like that, it sucks, yes, but it also, hey Jess, also gives the opportunity for new life to grow. And yep. Fire is just, I don't know, primal, I think, is the word that comes to mind. Very, very primal. So, bottom of the hour, when we come back, I'm going to talk about meditation with fire. Because, yes, fire meditating is a real thing. And often it helps us to get rid of the things that are burdening us because we can feed them to the metaphysical fire then, too, as we're doing the fire meditation. And why not? So, off to break, and we will. Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we're off adventuring, off into the spaces between. I had to make sure that I had all of the buttons pushed and clicked and everything else. So, yes, tonight we've been talking about fire because, yeah. Let's see. We've talked about the draw of it, the attraction of it, because yes, there's a lot of attraction to fire. And so I got to thinking, maybe we should talk about some meditation associated with fire, because yes, meditation is often really hard to achieve if you're not accustomed to doing it, because most people assume that in order to truly meditate, your brain has to go blank and you have to just, be quiet, right? Well, no, that's not really the way it works because, most of us, if we tell ourselves to not think about things, what happens? Our mind doesn't shut up. It's kind of like being wide awake at 2 a.m. and you just want to go to sleep. And it doesn't happen. And it's vexing, right? Yeah, very, very, very vexing. So, to meditate with fire, what do? Well, I hate it when the technology jumps around and does the thing that I don't want it to do. Okay, we'll just close that tab. So, when it comes to, Leo says fire equals life. Yes, very much so. Which of the U2 fires would give me third degree burns? I don't know. the one that's too hot. We don't want to burn. Burning hurts. We're talking about meditation. So when it comes to meditating and we're around a fire and that's what you're choosing to do, first off, you want to be comfortable. Well, regardless of how you're meditating, the goal is not to be, figure out how to be comfortable in an awkward pose. No, you need to start off comfortable. If you're comfortable kneeling, comfortable, sitting crisscross applesauce, whatever pose it is, if it feels comfortable for you. I like to just sit in a chair because those are comfortable to me. Exactly, Leo. Tell your brain to be quiet and go to sleep, and what's it do? It wakes up and tells you what the square root of pi is. Even though it's not blueberry. So, sit comfortably, and if we're out by the campfire, we're probably going to be sitting in one of your little camp chairs, so be comfortable in the camp chair, or a log or whatever. You don't necessarily want to be leaning back. You do want your back to be straight. You want to be comfortable, but you want to be sitting up, because we're being mindful, even though we're meditating, right? And it's a lot easier to be mindful when you're not slouching. So sit up, shoulders back, your back straight, and your feet and knees are about shoulder width apart. So it gives you nice, solid base where you're at. And as far as your hands, what do you do with them? Well, just hold them in your lap. They don't have to be held in any particular way. Just be comfortable. And take a few deep cleansing breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And just go with it, just breathe as you're going and relaxing. And as you're doing this, you want to visualize your tailbone as anchored to the earth. Because often that helps us to ground the energies that we're absorbing and the things we're dealing with. And it helps us to be centered. Because if we're not centered within ourselves, it's really hard to become centered within our mind and our emotions. So, when it comes to meditation then with the fire, you do still want to be present like you would with any other type of meditation. You want to be present within yourself. But instead of closing your eyes, we want to keep your eyes open because you're looking at the fire. Remember to blink. Don't dry out your eyeballs because you've been staring at the fire. Blink. And be present. And instead of trying to blank out what's in your brain, because, you tell your brain to turn off and suddenly you're wondering about your grocery list and what you forgot to buy 3 weeks ago and make sure you put it on your grocery list for the next 2 weeks and, all those different random thoughts. And, man, what my neighbor kid thought of me back in second grade. This random things that don't have any value. And as they come through, acknowledge that they're there, and then exhale them out and breathe them into the fire or towards the fire so the fire can consume them and let it go. And you want to learn how to be present with yourself as you're breathing and observing the fire and feeling with your senses the warmth of the fire, the play of light and shadow, all of that. So not the stuff that's just wandering through your head trying to catch your attention. Just let it go. Let it breathe out. Naysay. For you, yes, that would be considered Indian style. For me, that'd be crisscross applesauce because I'm more Nordic than Indian. As you're breathing in and out and you're accepting those thoughts that are moving through your brain and letting them out and go into the fire, observe the flames and the colors of them, the oranges and the reds. And as the flames are closer to the wood, the blues and the purples or maybe greens as the different elements are burning. And watch how fluidly they move because they're just always changing, always constant, and they're fluid. And then occasionally there'll be a snap or a crackle as, a little bit of pitch burns or a little air pocket pops. And just, don't let it startle you. Just breathe in and exhale the things that are distracting you. And realize that each moment that you are existing and observing the fire is new. It's not a permanent moment, because once it passes, it won't come again. As you're inhaling and exhaling and observing the fire, as the flame is always changing, so are you. And just go with it. Be fluid with it. Relax into it. And as you're being centered and you let the blah that's floating through your brain go and accept that you are always changing, be centered. Take 3 deep breaths. And while you're inhaling, notice maybe smells, the smells of the world around you, maybe the smells of the fire, the pitch. If you've been toasting marshmallows, maybe you can smell the marshmallows. If you've been drinking a beer, maybe you can smell the beer. What is it that you're smelling and experiencing? Not just the visual of the fluidity of motion within the fire, but the things that you're smelling, maybe, or the wind upon your skin, or rain. What is it that you feel? And then release your tension as you're inhaling and exhaling. As you inhale, exhale tension, and let that tension flow out into the fire and burn off and be gone. Feel the heat from the flames on your skin, your face, your hands, your clothing, and just observe those sensations. Feel them. Feel them completely. Feel them authentically. Don't make any judgments about them. Just feel them and acknowledge that, I'm feeling warm sitting next to the fire. And maybe my backside's a little cool because my backside's away from the fire. Okay, but you're still sitting, your back is straight, your shoulders are back, and you're breathing slowly, consistency. And then take in what is around you. The fresh, clean air, the warmth of the flames, the clean breeze as it blows across you. And just appreciate that moment that you're sitting there and accepting that heat upon your skin, that energy flowing from the fire. So when you inhale, you're inhaling the energy, the potential from the fire, and it's settling into your core. And you're exhaling the negativity, you're exhaling the stress, that chaos that drives you insane, your anxiety. So inhale the peace and the tranquility that comes from a fire. Because think about it. Peace and tranquility happen with a fire because you're relaxed, you're warm, you're comfortable, you're not stressed. And inhale that peace and then of the world around you, and exhale that stuff that is just stacking up and driving you nuts. And just do that for a while. The inhale, the exhale, listen to the crickets chirp, the cicadas sing, the bullfrogs croak. Jessica says the smell of barbecue is great too. Yes, the smell of barbecue is a special kind of perfume. But inhale the smells from around you, and exhale the stuff that's just stagnant within you. And store up the energy and the heat of the fire, and exhale the things that just aren't going to serve you. And appreciate the moment, even as you acknowledge that this moment won't come again. Which is why the next time you do this, you'll feel nostalgia for this time, or the time before. And as you're doing this, the stress is just going away. And you're feeling calm. And you're feeling relaxed. And you can do that for as long as you need to. Sometimes it's going to be a minute or two. Sometimes it might be an hour. I get it. But as you're ready to come out of the meditation, Take 3 more deep breaths. Inhale the strength of the fire and exhale the stress. And then come back to yourself. Be mindful of yourself. Be mindful of the strengths that you have within you, that core of fire that will sustain you through your day-to-day lives. Leo says, we hear our toads outside right now because of the rain and ground being so wet. It's an awesome sound. Yeah, bullfrogs, the horny toads. I know if I go outside right now, I'll hear the bat wings as they fly around looking for bugs. I'll be able to hear the frogs and the toads and the cicadas and the crickets and the night birds chirping, owls hooting. And even though there's fire on my horizon, because there's the big forest fire up there, down here there's still tranquility, there's still peace. If I was closer to the river, I could hear the water lapping against the shore. That's another soothing sound, I gotta tell you. And yeah, meditation is pretty basic. It's easy to do once you get in the habit of doing it. And once you're in the habit of doing it, and it becomes easier to get into that meditative state, it becomes easier for your spirit guides to say, hey, what the heck were you doing today? Instead of just going the typical facepalm, they can help guide you because you're more in tune with them. Desert toads, okay, desert toads, but a lot of times we get our anxiety levels and our stress levels escalate because we don't know how to let go of them, and it starts to cause health issues, and then we go to the doctor. The doctor says, hey, you have high blood pressure, or you have this, and so here, take this pill, and it's going to fix things. Oh, and by the way, you should probably exercise, and maybe do some mindfulness exercises. Most of us are not taught what a mindfulness exercise might be. Basically, in this case, it'd be some meditation. You're trying to be mindful of self, and you have to practice at it. It's not going to come immediately, because I know when I first started meditating, there's like a bunch of squirrels on acid in my brain. There is no focus. But nowadays, especially with the fire meditation, I meditate very, very easily to fire. I can tune out and, yep, that's it. I'm done. And it's peaceful. And my mind just flows. I may not think of anything other than just abstract thoughts or pictures or things just, flickering through my brain. And that's, sometimes that's what you need. We're so plugged in nowadays that to unplug and meditate, that's the harder thing. I mean, if you don't think it's hard, walk into a restaurant. How many people are on their phones instead of talking to people around them? A lot of them, because it's normal for us to be on our phones anymore. Yeah, so challenge yourself. Leave your phone in your bag or in the car next time you go out to dinner, if you can. And I understand sometimes you got to have the communication device on you because you're worried about things happening, which I totally get. I have a 7-year-old. I live in fire country. I've been paying attention to those alerts from the county. Nixle is another thing, Nixle, to get alerts and find out, what the evacuation status is of this or that. So yeah, challenge yourself. Take a break. Unplug. Unwind. What is it you're going to do? You can do the same meditation, by the way, instead of using a fire, because I know some people cannot have a bonfire. And I get it, because maybe you live in an apartment, or maybe you live in town, you can't get out. Some places are starting to close up again because of the Delta variant of the COVID. If that's the case, take care of yourself, drink plenty of fluids, and be safe. Do what you have to do to be safe. Instead, you're going to burn a candle. You want to make sure the candle is a non-burnable surface. underneath of it. So, in a way to catch the wax, I often use just a saucer from the thrift store. Kind of pretty, catches the wax, and whoop, you know. Then I can get it warm, and I can get all the wax off of it to reuse in a different candle. That's if all the wax isn't burnt up, because sometimes they are. Yep, Nancy and I are on the same page. Yep, can't be outside with a campfire. Candle can be the same way. Candles can be very, very mesmerizing. Very mesmerizing. And real quick, I have a caller. Doot, doot, doot. Hello, Oregon. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hey, Justin. How's it going?
Hey,
Just so
it's
you
going
know,
great. I'm
got about 6 minutes, just so you know. Okay?
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to call and say hi before you ended the show and tell you I love the conversation about the fire, and it is very therapeutic. I've been out here enjoying the fire and listening to you talk tonight, and it's been awesome.
Thank you. I have campfire envy now, Justin. It's just not fair. I want a campfire.
Yeah.
You'll have to send me a
Well,
video.
it's rained all day here.
Oh, yeah? Well, maybe it'll come
Yeah,
this
it
way
rained all
next.
day here today. So we're safe. We've been lighting fires though, and we just wet down the yard and put the hose next to the fire because my kids have been here recently. They've all come back to Oregon, at least temporarily, and we've been all hanging out as a family around the yard, around the backyard and the fire, and just talking like you've been talking about tonight, and it's just been awesome.
Good.
There's no substitute for just good old conversation and getting away from the screens and the media and just having a good solid conversation with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here I have a YouTube show and I'm telling you to turn them off. But sometimes, yeah, that's exactly what you need is you need to turn the TV off. You need to turn the screens off and just be present with the people. Some days you just need to not people, which I get. But yeah, campfires are awesome. If you have the chance, you should do it. I'm telling everybody, do it, do it, do it. There are videos now, YouTube videos, where you can pretend you have a fire, but it's not quite the same at all.
You don't get the smells, obviously you were talking about the food and everything earlier, and fire is just it's an energy that you can't get anywhere else. Natural fire is just irreplaceable when it comes to, and that's where we came from. Many things are born in fire.
Yes.
And you can't just dismiss it and stop doing it. I think that's a lot of what's wrong with many people and societies today, that they depend on all of this electricity and this manufactured energy that you can't really depend on in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my opinion.
It's a good opinion. I like it. I agree. 100%. Sometimes we just need to unplug.
Yes, exactly. And believe it or not, fire creates nutrients and everything for your plants, and it creates CO2 for your plants. That, contrary to popular belief, CO2 is good for the environment. The trees love it. The plants love it. If you notice, when you go to a camping site where there has been a lot of people camping out, making fires, the trees and everything around there are usually more vibrant. They're healthier because the forest and natural life accepts us. We make a difference.
Mm-hmm. We do.
Yeah, we definitely we burn the weeds and the things that we have a hard time controlling, like morning glories and things like that. We try to use as much of them as we can for food and plant nutrients and everything. But the stuff that gets out of control, we burn it and we feed it back to our plants, our desirable plants,
mm-hmm.
and we burn it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you burn it, there's still a lot of nutrients in that. So you feed the ash back to the soil and you create more life.
Yes. Well, and then if you have wood ash, it's really good for your chickens to fluff themselves around in the wood ash because it's good for the mites and the buggies that might inhabit your chickens' feathers and such.
I know, that's funny as hell. Our chickens will actually, we put our fire out, before we go to bed. We hose it down really good, luckily. But the chickens will actually get right into the fire pit, and there'll be like 3 or 4 chickens in the fire pit making holes and dusting themselves and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it was like 4 chickens in the fire pit.
Pre-roasted, right?
Yeah, like, you guys are ready. I'm going to call you barbecue and you extra crispy.
Chicken nugget, chicken stir fry, chicken barbecue, Miss Rotisserie.
Jackie won't let me name that because she loves her chickens. I have to wait until she's out of town to kill one of the chickens. I'll be like, this one didn't make it.
Yeah, I understand that one. I do. Well, my dear, it is about time for the show to end. So thank you for calling in. And yeah, fire's important. We need to just stop, sit back, and enjoy it once in a while.
Well, thanks for taking my call. I love your show.
Thank you.
And I'll always be here to hang out.
Thank you, Justin. Have a good night, my dear.
Yep. A great night, chat. Love you all.
Well, everybody, that is it for the night. I will be back tomorrow, 9 Pacific time and 9 p.m. Pacific time. So channel your inner fire. Have a good night. So merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. And we'll see you tomorrow.